Hello, and welcome to our workshop, Designing to Deliver Value. My name is Cap Wilkes, and I'm glad to be here with you today. I think of myself as an agent for positive change. Over the past 20 years or so, I've had the opportunity to work with rural health networks, public agencies, and nonprofit organizations, helping them plan and innovate. Designing is a creative and dynamic process. It requires a commitment to think things through and to be open to new ideas and ways of working. Developing products and services that generate revenue depends on this designing process. It also takes a systems approach, including a fresh look at what your members value and what it is going to take to deliver that value. This workshop introduces and walks through two effective planning tools, the Revenue Development Canvas and the Finding the Fit Designer. I have also developed a workbook for you to use alongside the presentation. It provides opportunity for you to get started using these two tried and true planning tools. The recording of this workshop presentation, along with the accompanying workbook, is posted on my website, www.bettertogetherkw.com. By using a systems approach and being open to dynamic and iterative planning, and by keeping your members in the front of your product and service design, you will be able to plan for revenue-generating products and services that your members value. This presentation and accompanying workbook draw primarily from two books, The Business Model Generation, Business Model Canvas, and The Value Proposition Design. I commend them to you for deeper learning. Additionally, I have used content developed by the Rural Health Innovations, specifically for rural health networks. Reference information is provided at the end of the presentation and the workbook. Let's get started in our time together, stating the obvious. Networks are sustained over time when they deliver services that network members value. A sustained network looks like engaged members that are participating in the network's collaborative activities and ultimately investing their time and energy. This is because they recognize the benefits they are gaining from their investment. We need to put our members at the beginning of our design work in order to develop revenue-generating products and services that deliver value. We will start with the tool, Finding the Fit Designer. The Finding the Fit Designer is embedded within the Revenue Development Canvas and completes the first 3 of 5 Canvas components. Within the designer, we will be creating a very brief organizational profile, checking in on our strategic thinking, and diving into our marketing thinking. After we walk through the designer and a specific service has been found, I will then introduce you to the Revenue Development Canvas, walking through a template and translating our work from the designer. I will share some guidance and some examples for completing the development steps of operational thinking and financial thinking. To prime our work about products and services for rural health networks, here is a list of some network services that are pretty straightforward for figuring out how to count the work and quantify the effort. This makes them then also pretty straightforward for figuring out how to price and pay for them. We will be coming back to this idea of the type of payment when we get to our financial thinking component of the Canvas. Here's a list of several network services that can be a bit more difficult to count. In fact, sometimes it can be difficult to even know exactly what has been delivered and when. Often these kinds of services are paid for through subscriptions or through a use agreement and priced based on frequency of use or when a result has been achieved. You may already be providing one or more services to your members. Perhaps at this point, there are services funded through a grant, or you're wanting to transition those same or similar services to being paid for by your members. The tools I'm sharing with you today, the designer and the Canvas, will help you think through your current services, as well as identifying new ones for your network. By using the designer and Canvas to think through your current services, you will get a better idea for how to articulate the value of the service and operational components that influence and impact pricing and your financial goals. A financial idea to being able to generate revenue for your network is that of systems thinking. This is because there are so many interrelated and interconnected parts to the design and development effort. A systems approach is built into the Designer and Canvas tools. We will be working to understand what your members and a target market's needs and values are. Find the fit with your organization and identify specific services. Figure out how to articulate the value of those services. Deliver that service in a way that meets the expectations of your members and is also aligned with the mission and vision of your network, meets your financial goals, and ensures that your members are able to afford the service. Phew, that is a lot to think about. Well, the Revenue Development Canvas and Finding the Fit Designer will help you get through all of that thinking, and I'm happy to be sharing it with you. Check out page 2 of the workbook for a couple of diagrams that may be helpful. To get started, please pause the presentation at this slide and go to page 3 of your workbook, Building an Organizational Profile. Spend a few minutes describing your network. This will help you keep this big picture ideas close at hand through the rest of the workshop. The first part of the presentation walks you through Finding the Fit Designer. This diagram with additional detail is included in the Appendix A of the workbook. I've also included facilitator questions for the needs assessment and value map components. Check out Appendix B to help you dig a bit deeper when using this tool. There are 5 steps within the Finding the Fit Designer. I will walk you through each one, including some examples. You can follow along in your workbook, starting on page 4. The 5 steps to identify a product and service that your members value and figuring out how to articulate that value include working through an assessment of your members from their perspective. That is, understanding what they struggle with and what they wish they had that would help them be successful in whatever terms they think of as success. In the Designer, this is called the Member Needs Assessment. The next step is working through a value map. This requires a shift in perspective from that of your members' perspective to the network itself. This value map considers what the network may be able to do to meet the needs of its members. Another step is to focus our planning effort by identifying the specific target markets. This is a planning trick that will help avoid getting too complex or bogged down. The 4th step requires the hard work of synthesizing all of the information from the earlier steps in search of finding the fit between what is valued by the network's members and what the network is able to deliver. And the last step is spending some time when all of this good thinking is still top of mind to find the words and language that articulates the value of the selected product or service so that the target market can easily see and understand the value. We begin with the Members' Needs Assessment. This assessment is done by identifying the jobs your members are doing and the pains and gains associated with those jobs. This may be a new way of thinking about your members' needs, but I assure you that using these words and ideas helps you shift your perspective and focus on what your members are doing and how they're doing it. We're going to start with simply observing what is going on with your members. And I'll introduce you to this new language and way of considering the needs of your members. We start with identifying the jobs they are doing. These are the problems they're trying to solve, the tasks they are charged with completing, and the needs they're trying to satisfy. For example, for rural health organizations and agencies, these jobs may be something like caring for patients with complex needs, educating community members, retaining skilled workforce, coordinating care. The pains your members are experiencing while doing this work may include aspects of their work or their environment that are keeping them from being successful, or challenges they're trying to overcome or work around. Describing pains often includes emotional descriptions like frustrated with staff turnover, concerned about limited budgets, annoyed or stressed out, or descriptions of obstacles like lack of awareness or engagement. Gains for your members are those aspects of their work or environment that are desired or wished for, results or benefits. Describing gains with emotional language may sound like being happy with cost savings or proud of a recognition or excited about the results. Or descriptions of met expectations or achievements like increased access, engaged collaborators, empowered community members, or patients. What you are doing in the needs assessment part of the designer is focusing your thinking on your members, using your members' words, and shifting your perspective so that you gain new insights into what they value. Sometimes this direct observation of the jobs, pains, and gains can be quite difficult because there is so much to consider. My guidance is to start by simply brainstorming your ideas and then clustering those ideas into similar themes or jobs. Or perhaps use a mind mapping exercise. One of the best ways to complete the needs assessment is to ask your members to share their thoughts with you. I encourage you to stick with the language of the Finding the Fit designer. In its simple approach, it is effective at gathering insights from the perspective of your members. For reference, here are some additional examples of members' jobs from several rural health networks and their members that have used the Finding the Fit designer. You can see that this is a list of observed tasks and actions or work that the members are doing or problems they are trying to solve. Here are some examples of members' pains. Recall that these are the frustrations or negative experiences that members have as they are working to accomplish a job or a task. These pains also include the risks that are feared. And here are some examples of members' gains. Recall that gains are what the members wish for or desire. They are the positive outcomes and benefits of accomplishing their work. Or gains can be aspects of the environment that would make things easier. Now that we have a deeper understanding of the needs of our members, the next section of the designer is the value map. In this section, we transition from thinking about from the perspective of your members to thinking from the perspective of your network. We are asking ourselves, how can the network relieve our members' pains and create our members' gains? And as the ideas for relieving pains and creating gains come, we are able to group these disparate ideas into possible products and services that are designed from the needs, the pains and gains that members are experiencing. In the product and service section, lean on the insights brought to light with your pain relievers and gain creators. It is tempting to rely on old perceptions when thinking about your current services. And also be on the lookout for new product and service ideas. Here are some examples of what the networks can do to relieve pains. Pain relievers address the issues that members have as they're doing their work, their jobs, and tasks. Check out Appendix B for some questions that can guide your thinking during this section of the designer. Take your time in this section and let the creative juices flow. Here are some examples of what the network can do to create gains for their members. Gain creators make available to your members those situations or environments that they wish for or are trying hard to achieve when doing their work, their jobs, or tasks. Again, check out Appendix B for some questions that can guide your thinking and help you dig a bit deeper in identifying gain creators. And now it's time to lean in what you've learned about your members and what you know about your organization, figuring out possible network products and services that will relieve pains and create gains. It is by doing so that the network has the opportunity to deliver value. In your workbook, there's a place for you to record your ideas. A suggestion is to take all of the pain reliever and gain creator ideas and group them into possible products and services. You will find these groupings hold both pain relievers and gain creators. At this point, the list of ideas can include both current services and new ideas. We'll be finding the fit in step 4 of our designer process, where we select a specific service to focus on. So for now, give your imagination permission to do its thing. Here is a list of some product and services that other rural health networks have come up with while working through the designer. Online wellness and health education library. a training curriculum, annual conferences, a community health champions program, care coordination service, a shared platform used by healthcare and community agencies, regularly facilitated affinity groups or telehealth scheduling platforms, or a mental health clubhouse program. A market includes all organizations who have needs and also have the ability and willingness to buy the product and service, or in a collaborative, participate in and invest in the network's programs. A market segment is a subgroup of the market that have distinct and common needs or characteristics. When you decide on a market segment to focus on, this becomes your target market. It's important at this stage of the designer to identify your market segments and specifically a target market so that you're able to really focus on and invest your time and energy. To identify a market segment, carefully look at the network members list in the Building an Organizational Profile section of the workbook and the members' jobs in the members' needs assessment of this document. Brainstorm a list of market segments, those organizations that have similar needs and the ability and willingness to invest in the network. Then as you consider the current and new product service ideas you just created, identify which market segments would benefit from those products and services. Once all potential market segments are identified, rank these segments in order of how much you perceive their interest in and potential benefit from the network's efforts. The top ranked market segments are the ones to focus on, to target. And going forward, these are the segments that will be referred to as your target market. For rural health networks, market segments are commonly defined by member type or type of healthcare provided, such as hospitals or clinics, primary care, behavioral health, schools, etc. Remember that the target market is simply the market segment that you select to focus on when completing the finding the fit and key messages steps of the designer, and the market that you focus on when using the revenue development canvas. You'll develop a unique canvas for each product or service. Sometimes multiple canvases are needed if a target market requires significantly different operational decisions to deliver value. We are now at step 4, which is all about finding the fit between what the target market really cares about and what the network offers. This is key to successfully identifying specific revenue generating services. This step helps the network think through the specific pain relievers and gain creators for each of the network selected projects or services. This is the work of finding the fit between what the network is able to deliver and what the members value. When considering one market segment at a time, your target market, select services from the list in step 2 that the network could deliver and that the members would value. Write these into the heading sections of the chart on page 9 of your workbook. With this chart, you'll be capturing your thinking of specific pain relievers and gain creators for each of the network products or services you've selected with your target market in mind. The last step in finding the fit designer in the effort of developing revenue generating opportunities is the critical step of articulating value. When you articulate the value propositions or key messages of your network's services, you're answering the question, how does this product or service meet the needs of the member from the perspective of the member? A key message is a statement describing the value that your target market will receive by utilizing your service. A well-crafted key message will spell out how the product or service will address the pains and gains using language that resonates with the people in the target market. During this last step, before you move into planning to implement a product or service, it is critical that the selected product or service aligns with the organization's mission and vision, and in some way contributes to the larger goals and strategies. Double check this alignment before moving forward with developing the service as a revenue generating component of your business. Check out page 10 in the workbook to develop key messages and and double check alignment with the network's mission, vision, and goals. Here's an example of developing a key message or value proposition. The service is sexual violence training. What that service looks like, or the pain reliever or gain creator that it creates, is providing education to clinical staff and community health workers. The pain or gain it is addressing is the perceived lack of awareness of this serious problem in the community. So putting it all together, the key message or the value proposition is sexual violence training for clinical health staff and community health workers increases awareness of the critical problem in our community. The next part of the presentation shifts from a focus on strategy and marketing to figure out the operations that are needed to deliver the promise of value. I'm going to introduce you to and walk through the Revenue Development Canvas. The Canvas provides you with a framework that enables the components to interact and adjust to decisions within each of the components. This is how systems thinking works. It requires dynamic and interactive effort. Because we started with the designer, we have put our members at the beginning of finding and developing revenue generating products and services that deliver value. We started with finding the Fit Designer tool. The designer is embedded within the canvas and completes the first 3 of 5 canvas components. We have done the work of creating a brief organizational profile. We've checked in on our strategic thinking and have done really good marketing work. So it's time to introduce you to the Revenue Development Canvas. In the workbook, there's a brief guide to the canvas that includes descriptions of each component. Turn to page 11 for the overview. There is a template for you to use starting on page 13. My suggestion is to transfer information from your completed designer into the Canvas template as a first step. I will spend the next few slides walking through these first 3 components of the Canvas. Using your Finding a Fit Designer, you can complete the organizational profile and briefly describe the product or service you've chosen to focus on with this canvas, selected during step 4 of your designer. The way to use the canvas is to complete one canvas for each of your products and services and to identify one target market. Information from multiple canvases can be aggregated and packaged together into one cohesive business plan for your organization. In the strategic thinking component of the canvas, you will document the target market you selected during step 3 of the designer. In this component, you're also clarifying which organization goals and strategies are being met or furthered with the service being developed in this canvas. These are important first steps, foundational for successfully developing revenue generating services for your network. From your Finding a Fit Designer and with your target market in mind, complete the marketing thinking component of the canvas using insights from your designer. In this marketing section, you are identifying the jobs, pains, and gains of your target market and translating the key messages, the articulated value proposition from the designer. You'll be working on page 14 of the workbook. You'll be referencing this section as you make operational and financial decisions regarding your product and service. This is really important because it means that your operational decisions will be focused on what you know about your target market's pains and gains. This is how you build value into the development of your services. Finally, it's time to consider how to implement the product or service you've been thinking about. It is in this section that we consider the expectations of your target market, how you can deliver the product or service, what key initiatives are needed to move forward with implementation, and who the key partners are that are needed for implementation. I will walk through each section of this component. Follow along starting on page 15 of your workbook. A question to consider that will help you build or create a service that will be valued by your target market includes understanding what experience you want your members to have while they're receiving or using your service. Look to your pains and gains for clues and to better understand what your target market wants and expects when using your service. Some examples of desired experience include interactivity, easy to access, or personalized. Another aspect of your operations that will help you build or create a service that will be valued by your target market is understanding how you will deliver your product or service. What are the methods you can use to deliver? Some examples of modes of delivery include in-person or asynchronous, video consultation, or online access. Other key operational questions to think about and to consider that will help you build and create a service are key initiatives. These are the significant actions needed to develop, implement, support, or deliver your selected product or service. And key resources. This aspect of operational planning includes resources needed for successful implementation, such as equipment or tools, technology, expertise, and staffing. In other words, what does the organization need to do, create, or purchase in order to deliver the product or service in a way that the target market wants it to be delivered? When planning the operations, keep in mind that this will be an interactive process as you work through your financial thinking. Identify your costs and estimate your revenues. Key initiatives are fairly significant activities. They have an impact on the timeline and the cost of the implementation. For example, developing conference planning procedures and decision-making structures, or writing curriculum content, or purchasing platform software. These examples highlight how operational decisions and circumstances show up in estimating expenses. If the conference planning implementation steps are already in play, there's little cost. But if this is a new service, then there will be some upfront investment needed to develop this part. Key resources that should be noted within the Canvas are those that are, again, quite significant to the implementation effort. They will have an impact on the cost of the implementation. It's important to identify resources that will require either startup costs or ongoing costs that should be incorporated into financial thinking. This will be key for setting prices for the service. Another operational component are the key partners. These are the people or organizations that without whom the product or service may not be viable. The question, who do we need to get involved for a successful implementation of this product or service, is an important one. For example, perhaps the service you are providing requires access to one of the members' scheduling technologies. This may require a business agreement to put into place prior to the service being available to members. And it sounds to me like the organization may be a key partner. The final component of the revenue development canvas is focused on financial thinking. This part of the framework considers the financial aspects of developing financial goals for the product or service, identifying significant financial assumptions that will be needed to calculate your expenses and revenue, estimated or forecasted expenses. Some refer to this as developing a pro forma, calculating projected revenues based on some pricing and sales assumptions, and finally coming up with a forecasted net income. Your financial goal describes what financial success looks like for the product and service you've selected for this canvas. Here are some examples of financial goals. Generating enough revenue to cover all your costs. Positive net income for the network. Affordable for members over the next 3 years. If possible, set financial goals with specific dollar amounts. Significant assumptions require you to consider what circumstances or decisions are expected to influence expenses or revenues. Here are some examples. Your startup will take a year, or 60% attendance will be anticipated for members. Networks will hire the staff for leading the project. I would expect that you will continue to identify assumptions as you work through calculating prices and volume of your services. To estimate your expenses, look to your operational decisions, initiatives, resources, and partners to identify startup costs, which are incurred during the development, and direct costs, which are needed to produce or deliver a product or service, and indirect costs, those expenses related to general administration of the project or organization. Forecast revenue by developing pricing decisions, including what volume of sales you anticipate and the timing or frequency of the revenue. It will take some careful and detailed spreadsheet work to estimate your expenses and forecast your revenues. The last step in your financial thinking is to plug your expenses and revenue estimates into the equation of net income, where net income is what is left after you subtract your estimated costs from your anticipated revenues. Here's an example of what a net income pro forma might look like with estimated net income over a 3-year period. An important note when you are working through your financial thinking, remember that for a canvas, you're limiting your financial calculations to a specific target market and one product or service. Being mindful and sticking with this limited scope will help you fine-tune your expenses and revenues. A suggestion is to create multiple canvases, such as having multiple tabs or worksheets within your spreadsheet, one for each different service, so that you can aggregate them together to come up with a total net income estimate for your network. To generate revenue for your network, you understand your members' needs, ensure your services meet those needs, tell them how their needs are being met, and then deliver what you said you were going to deliver in a way that meets your strategic and financial goals. Defining the Fit Designer will help you intentionally determine the product and services, and the Revenue Development Canvas will help you consider implementation steps for your generated service ideas and estimate your financial results. These tools, with your effort, will help you plan for sustainability with confidence. These are the resources I leaned on for this presentation and accompanying workbook. If you have any questions or would like to talk through your revenue generating service ideas, please contact me. Thank you.